Xenoblade Chronicles has everything. It's got likable characters, an interesting world, mechs, sort of, constant talking and combat.
I'm really feeling it. Nothing's gonna stop me. You're really getting
All right,
into it.
guys.
Looking good too for you.
I think we get it.
Come back. Go nothing's gonna stop me.
Shut up. Please shut up. But today, we're talking about none of that. We're talking about the Affinity system. Wait, you don't remember that? Come on, man. Well, you're not the only one. A lot of people have doubts about the inclusion of this system, and especially its menu, and they often call it pointless, and that it has no purpose. So let me explain why this sentiment isn't correct, but also why I think purpose in video games isn't discussed in the way that it should be. Also, if you enjoy this video, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. It super helps me out.
Come on, man.
Also, if you know any other people who enjoy Xenoblade Chronicles, don't hesitate to tell them that I said, hey, how are you doing today? Let's begin. If you haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles, here's a quick plot synopsis with no spoilers. Our cast lives on the body of a long since passed giant being known as the Bionis. The Bionis was involved in a struggle with the Mechonis, another giant figure, but instead with a mechanical body. The plot involves those living on the Bionis locked in a war with the robotic beings on the Mechonis, known as the Mechon, a mysterious blade that can destroy Mechon in a journey spanning both giants. Our main character Shulk, who has a hard time jumping. Wait, it seems like everybody does. Honey, do you need me to hold your hair back? Shulk and an array of other characters seek to journey from the Bionis to the Mechonis and end the long-fought war. This is a revenge plot, but it's also a coming-of-age story about our heroes meeting a world full of characters and slowly unraveling the mysteries of said world. This leads us to something that I think provides unrecognized importance to the game, and that's the Affinity system. If you don't know, the Affinity system in Xenoblade Chronicles is a nexus that depicts the relationships of all named NPCs and characters in the game. That's right, every single character. There's Dorothy, Leopold, he doesn't make a lot of cash, and Eric. The problem that a lot of people have with this system is summed up in one sentence. It's pointless. But what does that even mean? Well, I do think that most people would say that something in a game has no point when it has no purpose connected to the gameplay. So this would be a system in a game that doesn't connect with other game systems. So then an example of a game system with a point would be like the mining system in Xenoblade. By mining materials from ether deposits, the player can then use them to craft gems that can be placed in weapons to receive certain bonuses. The system then works cohesively with others and has a gameplay-related purpose as a result. So then why do players say that the Affinity system is pointless? Well, because it doesn't work exactly in the same way. It isn't very purposeful for the gameplay. Sure, when you meet someone in a town and do a side quest for them, the Affinity system is updated. When a town's affinity rises, more quests become available. But that would be a necessary next step to completing side quests anyway, and doesn't rely on anything specific to the Affinity system in general for the extra side quests to be unlocked. For gameplay purposes, it has no connective tissue to other components of the title other than depicting how high your town level is for side quests or how high your main party affinity is for each other for character quests. Because it's mostly a visual element to already existent systems, people claim it doesn't serve much of a purpose, but I still don't think it's pointless. Let me explain why. Let's look at a different feature that's in plenty of games. That's environmental storytelling, prominently known for its feature in Dark Souls. Environmental storytelling is self-explanatory. It's when something in the environment says something about the world at large that hints at a larger narrative. So some examples would be what the state of the environment says about an area, or what the enemies do. Or more obvious examples like what a book that you find in the environment says. Well, how am I gonna beat Artorias with a fucking book? These types of aspects to a game's world don't connect to other game systems, just simply the game's world and storytelling. So then, are they pointless? Well, I doubt people would say so, since they're so generally highly praised by critics and players alike. So then, what is the difference between what games like Dark Souls are doing with environmental storytelling and what Xenoblade is doing with its Affinity system? Well, it's, watch out for the boulder! Well, the most obvious retort is that Xenoblade's system looks cluttered as f. And yeah, I agree. I'm not arguing here that the Affinity system is pretty, or that it's an astounding system. Just that people call it pointless, or ignore it, when I do think that there's value within it. I'd say that the Affinity system in Xenoblade Chronicles is something similar to environmental storytelling, but I'd say it's more akin to UI storytelling. UI storytelling is something I made up. I know, I'm a f***ing genius. And it just means that the game is telling its story through systems within your game's menus, rather than just the world. It's essentially a fourth wall breaking level of storytelling that I don't think many games attempt. Even Xenoblade Chronicles 2 didn't bring this feature back. I mean, they had to save room for their added gacha mechanics. Oh my god, who did I get? Oh my god, I pulled Jumping Fiora! I think UI storytelling is done so sparingly because there really is this conception that everything within a game's UI needs to hold practical purpose, and I definitely don't agree with that. I think that anything that a game can do to further immerse you within the story and world should be done. Sometimes I think we miss out when we analyze games strictly from a mechanical sense. This isn't to say that I think we shouldn't do that ever. Of course I do. I mean, just look at the mechanical failures of Cyberpunk. Eric! But what I mean to say is that it can be too focused on mechanical systems. That when we focus on things, such as how components connect to other gameplay systems, we really miss out on some broader questions that we could be asking. Such as, what is this saying? How does this connect to the game's world? What could this be saying about the story? What does this mean for me? And what time is it?
Now it's Ryan time!
No, Ryan, it can't always be your time. Get back in the closet!
Ryan time, baby!
Much like with what Dark Souls was doing with environmental storytelling, I think Xenoblade Chronicles is able to push its narrative forward in a more hidden way with UI storytelling. The Affinity system is able to push the themes of journey and growth by depicting an ever-evolving world. Each time you and Shulk meet new and interlocking relationships, the game is telling you that, slowly but surely, this world and its people are becoming less and less of a mystery. It strips away this notion that townspeople in games are simply for practical purposes, such as side quests and exposition. Instead, they're people like Shulk with their own worlds of complex relationships. At face value, Xenoblade Chronicles is about destroying a villainous force, but if you look closer, you'll uncover the deeper meaning about this game that the Affinity system is really guiding you toward. The story isn't about some war or giant beings. Instead, the story is about what exists on the decay. Shulk and company learn more about themselves from journeying this world and widening their horizons. As their world expands, so does yours. It's not a story that's strictly about the individual, but rather how the individual is affected by a larger, more complex world. And I think that the Affinity system shows this connection perfectly, and for this reason, it has purpose. Purpose within games means more than practical application, at least to me. A game requires interaction, of course, but it's more than just the interaction with its practical systems. With RPGs specifically, it's the interaction with the characters and the world as well. As Shulk and company travel these massive beings, they begin to learn more about themselves and their world. Like our traveling protagonists in Xenoblade traveling the world and learning about themselves in the process, we cannot learn more about ourselves if we just focus on the practical. Perhaps it's also important to sometimes slow down and immerse ourselves in the people and world around us. Hey! Thank you for watching and for all of the support that you've shown me over this last year and this last video. My last video did really well. My channel essentially doubled overnight and I'm kind of astounded, to be honest. So really, thank you so much. As this year comes to a close, I know that a lot of you are struggling. This year has been pretty awful for almost everyone. But I just want to say that I hope things get better for you and that you find more purpose in the new year if you weren't able to, or well, allowed to, this year. So stay safe, have a fantastic day, and have a happy new year.